He's a very persuasive man, the Count.
He's a monster.
One might almost say seductive.
This is devilry. It's worse than that. It is the devil.
You have no idea.
I'm going to destroy everything and everyone you love.
And I will drink my fill.
I've studied the legends. I know who you are.
Spare me. I'm undead. I'm not unreasonable.
Welcome everybody to the Cast from the Coast. My name is Adam Miles and I'm joined as always by Tim Johnson and Josh Lambert. What the fuck was that?
I don't know. I didn't want to be generic. Like, hello, you know?
Yeah.
I wanted to switch it up a little bit.
Well, I don't know if that really speaks to what we're going to talk about tonight or not, but yay. So...
Yay.
Set the tone.
Yeah, set the tone. Okay. So, thank you for joining us, everybody. And tonight, we're doing a special recording episode, something that we generally don't do a lot of when it comes to reviews. We're not going to review a movie, so to speak. We're actually going to review a miniseries. And this miniseries is a set of essentially 3 movies. It's like a trilogy they made. Each episode was like an hour and a half. We're talking about BBC's new rendition of Dracula.
Yay.
Yeah.
Tim was talking this up the last episode, if you all recall.
But
He
if
was
you
pretty
also recall, I wasn't done it.
Yeah, he was pretty amped up. I said,
I had one episode left.
I said, Tim, you know, there's a lot of shitty renditions of Dracula. He said, oh, not this one. This one is the best. I said, well, here we are.
I think you're paraphrasing, and I think you're putting words into my mouth. But
somebody rewind the tape.
We can go back and look. But yes, I did talk this series up based off the first 2 episodes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now's time to really put it on the table, guys, as to what we actually feel about this. So, Tim, would you like to take us out with a synopsis?
Well, it's very brief, and I feel it's kind of redundant. Most people know the story of Count Dracula, but put it simply, in 1897 Transylvania, the blood-drinking Count draws his plans against a Victorian London.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it.
Okay. I mean,
short to the point.
Yeah.
Short
He's
to the
tired
point.
of living in shitty old Transylvania. He wants to see the new world.
And he wants to feed on the new world.
Yeah.
And he has put a plan in place to purchase an abbey in the new world, and he has a lawyer essentially providing him with the drafts of the documents to sign.
Okay, so I feel like you guys are getting ahead of yourselves.
No.
I feel like what we need to do is go into each individual episode.
Absolutely.
Dissect the fuck out of this.
Let's do that.
So let's talk about episode 1. The Rules of the Beast is what it's called.
Rules of the Beast, which, might I add, they basically throw those out the fucking window in this series. But let's continue, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about this for a second when it comes to story, general story, because once again, each episode is an hour and a half. They're like their own movie. It's kind of ridiculous that way. So let's talk about story here for a moment. So, Josh, take us out.
So it starts out, we have this character who's kind of looks like a leper. Like, he's deformed. He looks like he's got scabs all over him. And we come to find out that he's kind of in the safe haven of an abbey. And he's talking to 2 nuns, and he's kind of recounting his tale of the, was it 2 months or 3 months or whatever that he spent in Dracula's castle.
Yes.
And we have kind of a Pulp Fiction style back and forth with the timelines of, okay, I'm telling this story.
Nice
I'm back
analogy.
to this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then
Pulp
all of a
Fiction,
sudden
good call.
we're caught up at a point we catch up to where he is there telling the story, and then it kind of goes from there.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. So, talk about characters here for a moment. Well, actually, no, we'll talk about the story for this for a minute, still a little bit further, because really, this is not the old Dracula version. This is not what we're used to. This is not Bram Stoker's Dracula from the 90s.
It is, but they've updated and took a lot of liberties. But I think the core of the actual story is very much Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's just one of the things that I was saying in the last episode was it felt. How can I say this without sounding cliche? Like, it felt modernized with its dialogue. Like, it wasn't very old Englishy, how the book was.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. It has a lot of the core elements, but it mixed the core elements around. So the core elements don't play out in the same manner as the original movie or Bram Stoker's Dracula from the 90s or even the book. It doesn't play out in any way the same way.
A lot of artistic liberties are taken. They take the core source material, they try to develop those characters, and then a lot of artistic liberties are taken.
Yeah. Like, for example, in the first episode, you find this whole Pulp Fiction-esque scenario being told is actually being told by Jonathan Harker as he had survived.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Harker, taking, refuge in a nunnery in Hungary, basically had survived living with the Count, and yeah, he looks like a leper, is basically what you were saying. He's very emaciated and balding and got scabs and shit, and there's a fly that lands on his eyeball and goes in his eye, which was actually a pretty decent moment there. But he's recounting everything that he's telling to the nuns, because he had written it out, and they got this document there that says Dracula.
A manifesto.
The manifesto. And he's recounting it.
Sorry, I just wanted to say manifesto.
He just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said when he arrived to the nunnery, they gave him a pen and paper, and he supposedly wrote his whole story.
For
so the thing
is,
the nuns are there. Right. The nuns are there because they want to expand on the story, because apparently he was very vague. So they convince him to retell the entire story.
It's kind of funny, vague, but it's like that fucking thick sitting on the table, right? It's like, how vague is that?
Before the episode's over, you realize.
Yeah. So the gag that they pull out is when they look at it, it just says Dracula is my master, Dracula is God, Dracula, I serve Dracula, just repeating itself over and over again. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So it is vague. But when you're watching it throughout the first episode, you're kind of going like, how's that vague? It looks like he wrote a fucking autobiography on the guy too, you know what I mean? So, an autobiography on himself. Yeah, it does have a lot of the core principles of the Dracula story, but I found that the core principles that actually did follow the original book existed more in the story as he told it, not in the events that are playing now. But when he first met Dracula was an older gentleman.
With a very thick,
very thick
Transylvania, his accent.
Yeah, very old world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they had the weird situations with his shadow kind of looking awkward. It didn't necessarily do anything on its own, but they were very big on showing how grandeur he is through his shadow. It was kind of interesting. And once again, Jonathan Harker meeting with him and signing off on the documents, and then Dracula basically taking him in as letting him believe that he could leave at any point, but not letting him leave.
Yeah. Some pretty serious Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's some other weird things that happen in the tale here. One of the coolest things that I found in the episode was when Jonathan Harker finds his quote unquote predecessors.
Yeah.
Yeah, those fucking zombies.
Yeah.
So the gore in this fucking first episode was on point. Jonathan, when he's sitting in the nunnery, he looks fucking disgusting. When he finds the zombies and the undeads in the crate, they looked fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the way that they moved. The one that was folded up in the box and he starts creeping out of the box. It almost looked like stop motion animation, and it made it even creepier. You know what I mean? And then they start like fucking chasing him. The only thing was like I was looking at it saying, geez, are they going to break out into Thriller dance any second? You know what I mean? Because it was interesting the way that they looked, and they were all kind of like chasing him and shit. But no, it was good that way. And he starts uncovering more and more about who Dracula really is. And the interesting thing is, and this follows, suit with the story, is that Dracula gets younger. He's feeding off of the energy of having people around, like Harker and everything else. So he's getting younger. And I found that was really cool because there were times when you didn't see Dracula at first, but then you noticed his accent was different.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it would show him and he's that much younger.
Yep.
Well, I mean, and, they more or less explain it. It's either in the first episode or the second one where whoever he, is feeding off of, he not only
kind of gets those attributes.
He gets their attributes. He gets their accent. He knows how to speak whatever native tongue they can speak. He gets their memories. So
yeah, and Harker's from the New World, so it's like he wants to go to the New World, so he's going to blend in, so to speak, when he does this.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly enough, too, now you guys obviously picked up on this, and I thought that this was actually one of the coolest changes that they did, was that he doesn't have the atypical two fangs.
No, his teeth are all
He has like a whole
weird
fucking set of fangs, and when he leaves his bite mark, it's like a really fucking weird shaped bite mark, too.
Yeah, I thought that was fucking cool. Another thing, and I just want to say it before I forget, is the really big, like, kind of nod to Christopher Lee's Dracula, just that whole Hammer film setup when he comes in to bite, and you know what I mean? Like, I loved it. I loved that his eyes turned red like Christopher Lee's. Mm-hmm. Like, he totally reminded me of Christopher Lee.
I said the same thing
at certain points.
I said the same thing to Mick. I said I totally get a Christopher Lee vibe from him. Like, he literally, it's like his version of Dracula when he got younger was almost like an ode to Christopher Lee in the Hammer films.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Claes Bang.
Clay Bang, sure.
Claes Bang. I thought, especially in this first episode, he was fucking awesome. Like, he was so good. There was a couple times where the humor was kind of cringy. Felt very misplaced, like his one-liners and all that kind of stuff. But I forgave it because, like Josh said earlier, the fucking gore was on point.
Yeah.
Like that whole scene.
Even the ambience of the castle, the manor, like, it felt creepy watching it. It was all these corridors, and they're kind of explaining the lore behind it. This episode did very well. Both sticking to the original ideas of Dracula, not necessarily the source material word for word, but the concepts and ideas.
Yeah. I still say one of the creepiest moments in the episode, too, having to do with the ambiance, was when he was getting Harker to write the letters, and Harker hears the baby cry. And Dracula's just like, there's no baby. Don't know what you're talking about. Like, and he's just like playing it off, and Harker's just losing his mind because he knows that this devil man's basically going to eat a fucking baby.
Well,
he can't do anything to stop him.
But didn't he say that he didn't know about the baby when he got up there?
No.
When he killed her, and he's like, she had a fucking baby, and she was going to try to keep it or something.
Well,
I don't
he
remember.
said he didn't know. He'd never seen a baby like turn into an undead. He didn't know they did that kind of thing. Was his surprise.
Yeah, because he was going to try to keep it and see how this goes. Right?
Yeah,
that was creepy as
shit. Just the concept that Jonathan, the lawyer, had to understand his mortality at that moment. He's writing his death letters, basically.
Yep.
He said, "Okay, I've been given 2 to 3 weeks to live. That's it." So he's got to decide at that point how he's going to escape or what he's going to do.
That's right. Okay, so let's talk about the characters here for a minute, because we kind of blew out the story here a little bit. So the characters, Jonathan Harker, first and foremost. Mm-hmm. His makeup and the way that he acted when he was in the nunnery wasn't my favorite part of it by any means. I thought that the actor did really well when he was just the young Jonathan Harker and appears at the castle, and he's an upstanding gentleman, and he's just eager to get his stuff done and get out of there. And when he starts to go crazy, I thought it was well done. I think, in my opinion, though, the worst part of the character was when he was in the nunnery and he was already this leopard, emaciated character. I couldn't help but just stare at the size of his fucking head. Like, it was almost like I was looking at it going, it really just looks like he's got a big fucking bald cap on.
Yeah, but I'm looking at an actual picture of John Heffernan,
Okay.
Who played him, and he does kind of have a big head.
He's got a big old head. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I really like the effects.
Yeah, I did too. I liked the we're reliving his story through narration, which was cool. It was almost like we're reading the book again. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what it felt like. One of the characters I would like to talk about is Sister Agatha.
Yes.
Okay. So the head nun kind of thing that's spearheading this questioning to Jonathan.
Yeah. I really liked her. I liked the actress Dolly Wells. I thought there was like a spunkiness to her. I liked her. But then you find out she's a Van Helsing.
Yeah.
And she is the Van Helsing.
What a twist.
Yeah.
And when they name drop Van Helsing, that's some big shit.
Like, and I thought it was cool. Van Helsing's a nun, but she's not really following, the Catholic nun way, and she's all about this paranormal shit, specifically this vampire stuff, and I was just the whole time I was hoping, like, her brother or her uncle or her father would just show up as like the Van Helsing, like, old school Peter Cushing, to meet the fucking very much Christopher Lee Dracula. Like, I was hoping for that. I mean, I can appreciate the change because it kept it kind of fresh. And again, I really liked the chemistry between her and Dracula. When he, after Jonathan Harker escapes, it basically like jumps off the side and ends up at the nunnery or whatever. How Dracula shows up and comes out of a fucking body of a wolf. Right?
Yeah.
And he's standing there completely naked and he's just talking shit. But Sister Agatha is not having any of it, and she like cuts her hand. I was like, she is a bitch. She cuts her hand, she fucking splats it on the ground. She goes, "Go ahead, dog, lick it up." And I'm like, what? She's talking to Dracula this way?
Yeah. He was pissed too.
Yeah, it was so good. Like, I was like, okay, I think, okay, she's a Van Helsing. This is cool, right? But yeah, I don't want to get ahead of. I don't want to get ahead of the story.
The story, no.
I think if they had brought in like a male Van Helsing, it wouldn't be as powerful. Because here you have this educated woman who's spunky as fuck and just verbally bitch slapping Dracula, calling him a beast, and he's just getting pissed. She's testing out all the rules. She opens up the gates to the abbey, and it's like, "Come on in." Right? Like,
well, she doesn't say that.
No.
She's like, "I dare you," basically.
Yeah.
The only thing that I didn't like about the Van Helsing character was the fact that they didn't really push her to be a true demon slayer type of Van Helsing character as Van Helsing would be. Like, Van Helsing was a badass that went around killing the undead, basically, and finding the lore of the vampire and killing. And I thought it was a little bit of a wasted effort in this case because once again, not to get ahead of the storyline here or anything, but she was badass in the first episode. Like, she stood her ground. She pissed off Dracula even further. She did not give a flying fuck at any point. She was like, I know the rules, hence the name of the episode, Rules of the Beast and stuff. she knew the rules. She stated flat out what she believed the situation would be, and she held to it. And it was a lot of, I hope this works. You know what I mean? And it did.
And then it was like, holy shit, it worked.
Like, yeah, it's like, you know, I know you have to be invited in. You're right? And shit like that. But I felt that the character didn't really progress beyond basically just being a sarcastic, temptress bitch, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't seem to progress to a full Van Helsing level to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I feel that the story that wasn't the that's not the story that they wanted to tell, which is cool. I really liked the eventual reveal of how Jonathan's there, you know, telling a story, and he realizes, you know, the papers are all fucked up and all this kind of stuff. And then he says something about how he doesn't even remember what Mina, his fiance, looked like. And then all of a sudden, you know, Mina was the other nun during this conversation that was sitting there with Sister Agatha. And I like the twist, and, you know, it kind of gave credence to his story that he was saying, how he doesn't remember and all this kind of stuff. And I think it was at that point that, like, Sister Agatha actually believes what he's saying. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I like the twist. I just felt that, once again, it's almost like they didn't do enough. She became a throwaway character at that point. She was sitting there the whole time. She didn't do shit except for give really weird expressions. And then it was revealed, and she played, obviously, a victim-type character, you know, as Agatha Van Helsing was trying to protect her from Dracula. And that was it.
Well, that was crucial to the story, though. She had to get away. Because she eventually starts a foundation much later in the future, which
we'll
goes down and
talk about more
like
so in the
whole
third
end of the
episode.
series, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Talk about it more in the third episode. But once again,
Yeah.
the character, even though she's, you know, responsible for furthering the third episode, I just felt like it wasn't Mina. You know what I mean? It was just a character that they could have had almost anybody, in my opinion.
Yeah, and see, the thing is like, I really liked Mina's attitude at the start of the episode, where he's traveling to the castle and he's reading her letters, and she's more or less saying, like, you know, I know you're going to be gone for a bit, and I know the temptation of you possibly sleeping with someone else, but don't worry about it. It's okay, but just be warned.
The butcher's really handsome. And the mailman, he's hung like a horse.
You got a crush on? I'm going to sleep with her. Like, it's like, her character's great, right? And it's just in voiceover. He's reading a letter, but then, you know, when the reveal happens and she's been sitting there the whole time, it was like, it's cool, but she was only used later on in this episode as kind of a catalyst to keep things going.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
If you rewatch it, knowing that who she is, every time he talks about, like, Dracula, like, getting on him and shit, like, she's disgusted. And as he tells his story, seeing that reaction from his, like, lover, wife, fiance, whatever, is much more impactful than just a throwaway character.
Yeah, no, I can.
I mean, I don't agree with that she was a throwaway character, because, I mean, you know, when Dracula's down in the courtyard of the convent, Jonathan's left with his fiance, and they have this moment, and it looks like he's gonna fucking attack her.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, coming at her or whatever, and then she flips and she's like, don't fucking come close to me. But obviously he did deep down want to do it, and, you know, he goes and tries and kills himself. But
yeah,
you know,
which kind of brings up a new thing. The rules this universe kind of lays out, I couldn't make fucking heads or tails of them. So sometimes you become undead, sometimes you become a vampire, a certain percentage of people just will be undead, regardless of if you're attacked by a vampire.
And then there's people that will just die.
And then there's people that will just die, and
Vampires can't kill
yourself.
themselves.
Vampires can't kill themselves, but is he a vampire or is he just an undead?
I think he's that past the point of he's not undead, but he's not a vampire.
Right.
Like
He's a ghoul, basically.
Yeah, and I'm sure if Dracula wanted it, like, hey, I'll make you one of my brides or whatever he called them. But what I thought was cool was, okay, so Jonathan takes a stake to the chest. You think he's dead, he's out for the count. And then you follow Agatha and Mina down into the base. Oh, no. I'm getting ahead of myself. Because this is one of the best parts of the episode. Where they go down into the church part of it. And they're listening to the head nun fucking do her speech or whatever. Mm-hmm. And what am I missing? I'm missing a part.
You're talking about where they look into his eyes, right?
No.
Oh.
Before that, with the main nun.
Yeah, with Mother Superior.
Yeah.
She's telling them, like, stay strong.
Yeah, and, it's a real touchy moment. But while all that's happening, Dracula shows up to the window and goes, "Psst, Jonathan, wake up." Right?
Yeah.
Jonathan basically invites him in, so he gets in. Yeah. And then he fucking cuts the fucking main nun's head off.
Yeah, the Mother Superior.
And he goes, I think she's got something in her throat. And then the fucking head goes, oh, it's gone now.
There it is.
Fuck, I lost it. Lost it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of cheese I want from a Dracula.
Yeah. But I just felt like, that one was a fucking, he hit it, but I feel a lot of them were like swing and a miss. You know what I mean?
I found that the best part of that scene, though, with the nuns in the in the room where they were talking to the Mother Superior, was they all had the crosses up, and he was like, oh, and he sits down in the chair and he's like, you can give yourself to me, or I'll just have the fucking wolves rip you apart. And the wolves come in. And he's like, kind of commanding them, and they start like growling and getting ready to attack. And he goes, I guarantee that's going to be worse, by the way. And he's got this huge demeanor to him where he's just like,
He's like, yeah, you got me. I hate the crucifix, but you know who don't? Rabid fucking dogs.
Yeah. And that's the kind of cockiness that I wanted to see more of with this Dracula. Like this one, how would you act if you were immortal?
Pretty cocky.
Yeah.
you had like a certain set of things that could fuck you up, but none of those things really were apparent and gonna mess up your end game at this point. So I thought it was so awesome how he just fucking sat back and you see all the fight, you hear all the chaos, you kind of see it behind him a little bit, but that was probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole first episode was that.
Yeah.
There's two other scenes I'd like to talk about. When Jonathan's up on like the rooftop and it's a sunset and it's basically his last moments alive, and Dracula's like telling him to look at the sun and how the sun's so beautiful.
What's it look like? Oh,
describe her to me, like kind of giving the sun this kind of persona because he hasn't seen her in 300, 400 years or whatever it is. I think that was a really good scene to develop his character. And then when Jonathan, like after the nuns are all dead, and it's just the mother, Van Helsing, and the fiance are down in like the catacombs or the basement or whatever, and Jonathan kind of comes forward and they're talking, and then they look into his eyes and say, "Why aren't your eyes blue? Like those aren't your eyes," kind of thing. And then
he looks right at the camera and he's like, "They're not my eyes," or whatever.
Right.
Oh,
and then he totally
Dracula,
poltergeists
like,
himself by pulling the skin off. Yeah, I like that.
And that's how it ended.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
that's how that first episode ended.
That's how that episode ended. So, why don't we take a quick break, gentlemen?
Sure.
And when we come back, we'll jump right into the second episode.
Episode 2.
Second episode.
All right, coming back in a minute.
Hi everybody, this is Vincent DeSanti, the writer and director of Friday the 13th fan film Never Hike Alone, and you are listening to the great commentary of They Cast from the Coast. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to check out Never Hike Alone, which is streaming for free on YouTube right now.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to continue our discussion on BBC's new Dracula for the year 2020. And episode 2.
Blood Vessel.
Blood Vessel.
It's a really good title.
Yeah, it is.
Eh?
Yeah, it is.
That's a good title.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, Tim, you're very excited about this episode, so we're going to let Josh take it out.
Oh, roasted. So it picks up, again, we have this kind of like storytelling element.
I thought you guys were just talking
stuff.
shit. You weren't really going to do it, but you're really doing
Yeah.
it. Fuck
So we have
What
like
a
this
dick.
storytelling element where we see Van Helsing sitting across from Dracula playing chess, and she's telling the story again, trying to fill in the gaps. So she's in the same position Jonathan was, where she's trying to remember things and things aren't quite adding up. And basically, she's telling the story of Dracula gains passage on a ship destined to the New World, and basically has her as like a hostage, like a feeding bag, as they're traveling.
Now, this is the part where I found that it was really fucked up. Was she's playing a game of chess with Dracula, and she's recounting the tale of something that the twist is at the end of the episode, near the end of the episode, that she wasn't there for.
It was more in the
technically.
middle. It was more in the middle.
Okay, well, it was more in the middle, but still, like the first part of it, I'm sitting here going, how the fuck does she know this story? How the fuck did she know what happened?
Because as you find out, or as it's already stated in another episode, when he's feeding on you, he can make you see whatever he wants, right? So it was obvious that he was feeding on her at that particular moment, where they're having this chess game, and it zooms out, and it looks like the room that they're in is shaped like a 9, and that's the number that she's in on the ship.
Yeah, the
cabin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I feel like it's kind of like a dream, like an in state. She's not actually in the manor at that point.
No, and it is described a little bit later that it is like a dream state, a euphoric moment where they kind of come together and converse in some sort of a scenario, right? So, but like when it first starts off, like I didn't get that at first. You know what I mean?
No, me either.
And
I was trying to piece it together.
Yeah.
You guys are kind of simple, so.
Yeah, we're slow.
We are slow fuckers. So in this episode, let's talk about characters here for a moment. So we get a whole new slew of characters. We have Dracula and we have Van Helsing, and they discuss
Sister Agatha is her name.
Sister Agatha Van Helsing.
Jeez.
But then we get the whole crew of the Demeter. And it's some interesting people. The captain, the cook, who only had one.
I love the cook. I thought
he only had like the one hand or something like this, and he's
the cook is in a show which is super popular in Britain. And when I was in the UK, we watched it every night, and it is so fucking funny. He plays like a Syrian refugee who sneaks into the back of a car and like goes to live with these people in London.
Yeah, it's Home.
Home, yeah.
Nice. I'll
So
have to
good.
look that up. Yeah, no, he was a good character. He was funny as shit. And then you have like the young cabin boy, and a whole slew of other characters that appear in this. For the most part, the rest of the characters are pretty much fodder. They just kind of fill in the scenarios of the fact that they needed a crew, so they needed visuals of crew running lines and raising sails and moving shit on and off the boat. So there wasn't really.
In addition to the crew, there's all these aristocrats, though. There's guests. So you have these highfalutin rich people on the ship as well.
Yes, highfalutin.
But see, okay, go ahead. Keep talking.
No, you go right ahead. Go ahead.
No, well, okay, so we've had discussions after and before. We've had discussions before this about this episode, and I know that you guys might not be on board with it. Get it?
See the disapproval in my face on that? Okay.
No, it was good. It was good. It was just almost as good as Blood Vessel. Oh, It was always good. Anyways, the point that I'm trying to make is that I didn't feel like this was a throwaway episode. I totally got like classic horror movie trapped on in a confined space, and there's a bunch of people, and each one has got a completely different personality, characteristics about them, and but the thing that I really liked was it was through Dracula's point of view. Like usually in those situations, it's the monster,
right?
It's the antagonist.
It's through the victims.
Yeah, but Dracula being the protagonist, he's the monster, obviously, right? And I don't know. I got major Thing vibes.
Well, they also tried to do a very
alien.
Yeah, and they very much so tried to do almost like a murder mystery type of scenario with it, but you knew who the fucking murderer was. But like getting the crew to run around and play the aspects of, who did what and who was where at what time and shit like that, and finding the victims and trying to find out evidence. And Dracula laughing his ass off the whole time because, he's obviously responsible. It was good that way too. So it really did kind of play different genres out. You had murder mysteries, you had pure horror, you had a bit of comedy in there because some of the characters had good fucking lines in this episode too.
But even on top of that, it also progressed not only the character of Dracula, it progressed the character of Sister Agatha. I feel that a lot of the crew members, there was just the right amount of story to kind of root for them and all that. We're talking about the chef and the little crewmate that he befriends, Pietro or whatever. Yeah. I love those guys. And then the aristocrat and his wife, and he's gay with the black guy, and there was the Duchess lady, the old lady, and then she's like, "How did you know that?" When he's having a conversation with Dracula, and it was like he fed on her before type of thing when she was I loved all that shit. I thought that was fucking awesome. And it's all on a boat.
Yeah,
it's all on a boat, and they can't go anywhere. They can't see anything because at the start of the episode, Dracula does this fucking fog that seemed very Count Dracula to do, right? And
it followed them essentially.
Yeah, I liked it, and I liked this episode. I did. I really liked this episode.
To be clear, I don't dislike this episode. I know we were talking back and forth. It feels to me this is most where I see Steve Moffat's style come through. It felt like an episode of Doctor Who or an episode of Sherlock Holmes. It was a classic whodunit. It's very much his style. If you look at any of the work he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that I really did like as far as a twist with this episode was it was Dracula's boat. He hired and chartered all these people to be there because he wanted a, I don't know,
he created his own draft.
So, yeah, it's smorgasbord of all these different individual people that could make him better before he gets to England.
Yeah.
Right? That conversation he had with the Indian doctor, and he was like, you're a genius. I want that.
Yeah.
I want that in my head, right?
He basically looked at the equivalent of a phone book as a menu. He said, "Oh yeah, doctor, yeah, I'll take that order."
Yeah.
And yeah,
delicious. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and no doubt about it, it's not a bad episode. I just don't think that it's as strong as the first episode because the first episode came out like balls to the wall.
But again, they also have the benefit of that first episode being based on very recognizable material. We already know the story of Dracula. As horror fans, we know the traditional story of Dracula. I don't know how many times I've watched Bram Stoker's Dracula in my life. I've seen Christopher Lee's version of Dracula, the old Hammer film. The Bela Lugosi. I even read the book a couple times when I was younger.
Yeah.
I know this story, so yes, that first episode, kind of having a fresh spin, obviously is going to feel like a stronger episode, and it was a stronger episode because a lot of the best writing was already done.
Yeah.
Right? But I feel as an original episode, the second episode was pretty good.
Yeah. No doubt.
I did like. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, no doubt. I mean, the one thing is that the Demeter and the tragic scenario of the Demeter is an established part of the Dracula lore. It's just not a huge part of the writing. So yeah, you're right. It's an original episode at that point because they just took the plot point of the fact that he took the Demeter,
a boat ride, yeah.
And in the original stories and a lot of the original tales and movies, he basically just fed on crew members while he was almost hibernating on his journey to the new world, and it became they claimed it was like a curse on the ship.
Yeah, and it was a story that didn't really need to be told because it's like
it was just a matter of moving him from
boat
point
ride
A to
of
point
a
B.
month or yeah.
Yeah,
and he ate everybody.
Exactly, and the ship arrived in port, basically a ghost ship. Is what it was. But yeah, I did like the fact that they decided to do more with the Demeter, and it unleashed more about Dracula. You found out some more about his particulars and what he can do and can't do and shit like that. And then it did reveal the twist about the fact that Sister Agatha Van Helsing is alive, kind of like she's being kept alive is really what it is. And but I did like the fact that he tried to, before revealing what was going on, he kind of like set it up almost to like frame her.
Yeah,
she's a witch or she's an undead, and oh, you got to burn her. You gotta just fucking burn her, guys, and they like heist her up to the fucking place, and they're gonna burn her alive and shit like this, and he's just kind of like fucking having fun with this, like putting all the blame on her. I thought it was interesting the way that they did that, but then she, even though, like I said, and I stand by this, I don't feel like she really progressed to a certain level of Van Helsing that she could have. She still played pretty badass in this when she came out of things. And she started utilizing her knowledge to help keep them safe, because like you said, Tim, this episode was very much so they were together on a ship with nowhere to go. So what she does is she tries to keep them safe, and it's the whole circle of salt type of scenario, but she's using Bible pages
from the Bible,
like stamped down to the deck to create like that whole salt circle scenario to keep him out, and it kind of reminded me a little bit too the way that he was playing with them. If you guys remember the Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The whole,
absolutely
Zan's character in that, when he's just like fucking trying to get them to come out of the house because he can't enter the property and shit like that. So, pissing people off and stuff. So I like that. I did like that. Josh, what were you going to say though?
I don't even know. But his character again goes to like this Lucifer is the biggest one I can keep calling him back to. Is this supernatural force that's just put into the world of mortals, and he just toys with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So the effects in this episode, there was not a lot of huge effects in this episode when it comes to, the same level by any means as the first episode when it comes like to gore and stuff like that. The deaths were pretty tame in this, in my opinion. It was a lot of the feeding. Biting of the neck and the blood, and I love the pooling of the blood. Like the visuals of Dracula feeding were very classic, like you said.
And we got this continued scene of like the fingernails falling off. Like that's so fucking disgusting. Whoever designed that was so good. That is my favorite gore of this whole series, I think. And they keep calling back to it as like a calling card of you're undead, you're fucking falling apart.
Yeah. That when she picked off her fucking nail and I was like, yeah, that sucks. Ugh. Yeah, like that's gross. But once again, it didn't have the same, in my opinion, blowout when it came to the effects work of the first episode. But
I almost feel like every episode is its own like entity. And I know they are an hour and a half, and they could just be movies and seen as like a sequel. But it feels like it was almost directed by different people. Like the storylines feel very different.
I think each episode was
it was all
directed
done by
by
the same.
No, I think each episode was actually directed by somebody different.
Was it?
Yeah. What?
Just Josh is fucking.
It would make sense because they have very different feels. All three episodes.
First episode was directed by Mr. Johnny Campbell. Second episode was directed by Damon Thomas, and the third episode was directed by Paul McGugan.
And it's all produced by Stephen Moffat.
And all written by Stephen Moffat, Mark Gatiss, and one other person. Gatiss, whatever. Yeah, but they are directed by different people. So visually, you're right. Visually, they did have an aesthetic that was different each episode. Yeah. And, I mean, you're going to get that with anything, I guess.
Oh, yeah. You talked about the scene with the Duchess, and when she's like describing the gift, and he reveals it as a pineapple. That for me was huge. Like that shows Dracula.
Huge.
No, it was because it shows Dracula in 100 years ago, 80 years ago, whatever it was, and it shows that he's kind of been this motherfucker the whole time.
And I wanted more of that. I wanted more of that.
Like I could have a whole series of Dracula just telling stories of, yeah, I was there at the plague, no big deal. Yeah, I was there the fucking Irish famine, no big deal. I caused it actually, my bad.
Doctor Who version of Dracula. Yeah. But it's not like he's time traveling, he's just telling the stories.
No, he's just telling you stories. Almost like Interview with the Vampire.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good point. Good point. Vampire Chronicles. Okay. So let's talk a little bit further on the story, though, the twist on this episode. So this...
the big one?
The big twist on this episode. So we had one twist, which was Sister Agatha is still alive, and she's on the ship. And he basically has brought her with him. Because he did say that he was going to take her to the New World. Yeah. So it is what it is. But the other twist, so when the Demeter goes down...
Whoa! You're fucking getting ahead of yourself.
I'm not.
You want to review an episode? There's fucking rules, bud. You're getting ahead of yourself. First of all,
proceed.
Okay. First of all, everybody's dead except for Sister Agatha and the captain, who's you think he's dead. Okay.
Well, no, because Pietri and the chef got away. They're on.
Yeah, they got away.
They're on the.
But I just mean that's on the boat right now. Yes, right, Josh. They got away. Yeah, you know. I know, too.
Right.
So, she basically fucking goes back upstairs and says, more or less, light the ship.
Taking this motherfucker out.
Yeah, light the ship on fire or whatever, right? So she goes up, and again, very reminiscent of that first episode where they're having this playful banter back and forth. Dracula's just fucking driving the boat. All nonchalant, like, you know, no big deal. And she comes up and she's talking shit to him or whatever. And I forget how he gets lit on fire, but he gets lit on fire.
Well, when the fight breaks out between him and like the black guy who was the gay lover of the other guy, he steps out of the circle and shoots him, and there's a whole kerfuffle and everything else. And she goes up to the top, and they douse him in something, and she throws the lantern on him.
Kerosene, yeah.
Kerosene.
Doused some kerosene.
Yeah. So
yeah. No, and that happened earlier in the episode because he jumped off the side and. You know, how did you survive?
Swing around and climb back up.
You climb back in, and you know that whole reveal of he's been sleeping under the mattress with the dirt and all that kind of stuff. It was cool.
That's right. Yeah.
Better dirt.
Right. That was cool. So she basically tells the captain, "Blow this fucking ship up."
Yeah. Consider it a plague ship. Like it's contaminated. It's got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, "All right, cool."
Yeah. That's. And they were having that conversation. She pulls her nail out. Josh's favorite scene.
Yeah, it's a favorite scene. So, the ship blows up. Agatha dies.
Yep.
Dracula runs to his coffin, and it shows the coffin like sink down. And then it shows the point of view of the chef, and Pietro or whatever his name is,
Mhm.
and they see the ship blow up, and they're like, "Oh, what do we say, or how do we, just remember them and we'll honor them that way or whatever." So then it cuts back to the fucking Dracula's coffin underneath the water, and then all of a sudden, fucking Fist comes through.
Mhm.
And he's walking on the bottom of the water, which I thought was awesome because there's no bubbles coming from his nose. And I was like, that's impressive. Like, they had to CG that shit out, or he's just really good at holding his breath because there was no bubbles. I checked.
Or
Freeze framed and everything.
Or they made it
Right?
CG him underwater. He was just walking normally on land, Tim.
Definitely.
Maybe. But anyways, I don't know, but he had that underwater look. You look like underwater.
Yeah,
Like it looked like he was really underwater.
CG.
Anyways, he's walking on the ocean floor like a fucking boss.
Yep.
And then he gets to the fucking shore and he's looking. It's nighttime and all this, and he gets on the beach. And I, for whatever reason, was watching with subtitles, and all of a sudden it says in brackets, helicopter.
Helicopter.
And I go,
Yeah.
what the fuck? And then the spotlight comes on. All these cop cars come out, and I'm like. So there was a passage of time, and I guess it makes sense from Dracula's point of view because it would have felt like no time because once he goes to sleep, he's out, right?
Yeah.
So
Plus, I mean, what's a couple hundred years when you live
exactly, right?
Well, and he does say that in the last episode. He was like, they were asking. He mentioned how old he was, and he goes 400 years. Oh. No, wait, no, 500. I did sleep for a little bit. Like it was nothing to him. You're right. Like
we're talking about episode 2.
I know, Tim.
You give him plot points of episode 3. We're not there yet.
But yeah, the M. Night Shyamalan, the village reveal, basically.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, fucking Agatha steps out, but it's not Agatha.
Well, you don't know that.
Sentence.
You're giving plot points away from the third episode, Tim.
No, it's pretty clear it's not her.
It's pretty clear because she blew up on the boat.
Yeah, she did.
But
Is she? She was undead. Again, I don't know the rules.
Well, and, how did she have a fucking kid as a nun?
Well, it said she had a sister. She said her aunt.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, said it was her great aunt.
But anyways, I love how he's like looking like, what the fuck? And she goes, Count Dracula, we've been waiting for you or whatever. And the episode she cuts. And I'm like, what the fuck? So it was at this point that we did our podcast. And I was super jazzed because I'm like, this Dracula in a modern day setting, being a boss, eating people and shit. Like, I was really excited. And
In my opinion, this is where this series should end. That's the perfect ending.
Or come up with a better fucking story.
Well, I think that what you had a point earlier, Josh, and we were talking about this, that like it would have been really cool to see like some sort of like a I was there, storytelling recount. Bring him into the modern life like a Lucifer type of scenario and have him basically recounting stories.
Just have him in a facility like Umbrella Corporation, and there's just these people fucking interviewing him and testing him and be like, so tell us the story of the fucking Queen's Jubilee, right?
Yeah. No, that would have been...
So, that's how that episode ended.
Sure did. It threw me for a fucking loop. I had no concept that was happening, that's for sure.
But I knew the helicopter was going to come before it came.
Yeah, I was like, the subtitles too.
What?
Yeah, same here.
Helicopter humming. What?
Helicopter? Something's wrong with these fucking subtitles.
Yeah, like what the fuck?
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay, guys. That's episode 2. We're going to jump over to episode 3, but we're going to take a quick break. So, coming back in a minute, gentlemen. Episode 3.
Robert Englund here, a.k.a. Freddy Krueger. I'm watching and listening. They cast from the coast. You better or else.
Welcome back, everybody. Part 3 of our review of BBC's Dracula for the year 2020. Third episode, because the second one threw us for a loop with the helicopters and mercenary type fucking police guys and everything else that appear. And it's almost like Agatha's alive. Yay. But she's not, because we know that she blew up at the Demeter.
So episode 3, The Dark Compass.
Dark Compass. Tim, tell us a little bit about this episode.
Count Dracula made it to England.
Yay, the New World.
A new world pulsing with fresh blood. And he lays his plans to spread his foul vampire contagion. But why does he set his sights on a seemingly ordinary Lucy?
Fucking terrible scenario, but okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the episode, in my opinion, started off cool.
Yep.
It was him having this conversation with what you come to find out is Zoe, Zoe Helsing, descendant of Sister Agatha, and she's in charge. Well, you don't find this out until later, but she's got all these fucking cops, or what I thought were cops, but they almost looked like they were mercenaries.
Yeah.
And Dracula had this cool scene of, let me see your camera, and smile for me, and all this kind of stuff. And then he kills this woman and just fucking gone, right? And then it cuts to this woman waking up in her house, and she thinks it's her husband, but it's fucking Dracula. And how did you get in here? Oh, your husband let me in. And you come to find out he's all fucking broken in a fucking little mini bar fridge type of thing, and or was it a normal size fridge? I think it was just
like
a
a
bar fridge.
mini fridge.
It was a mini fridge,
Bar
but it's like, in England, so they don't always necessarily have like the same size fridges as us. It's what they would consider a normal size fridge. It's like between a bar fridge and what we would have in North America.
Yeah.
It's a little ice box that he's crammed into.
Yeah. And it's he's talking to this woman, and he's like, yeah, you must have a lot of questions, go ahead. And she's asking him questions about being a vampire, and I was like, this is kind of cool. And then Zoe shows up with her militia or whatever, or fucking mercenaries, and they start fucking the house up for some reason. And he's hiding in the corner, and the light's coming through, and Zoe comes in and basically more or less says, you're fucked, you got to come with us, or we're ripping the house down and you're gonna get burned.
Get in the box.
Get in the box. So he ends up at this complex, this like military complex, and this is where it all goes weird.
I still liked it at this point. When the lawyer comes in.
Yeah, the lawyer comes in, that was the best. He was like, yeah, he got fucking rights and all this kind of shit. And it's true. He absolutely, he's a citizen of this fucking, England or whatever.
Yeah, he's not a human.
But he's still a citizen.
Yeah, but you only get
who
human
are we
rights.
to treat him any less?
Technically,
Charter of human rights, not Charter of living things rights. He's not even a living thing.
Technically a landowner too. You know what I mean?
Oh, he is a count.
He's a count. There's all kinds of shit, so he had his rights.
He gets put in this big room like Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter, yeah.
And it rotates for some odd reason, and the light. I mean, I don't know what happened if at night when there's no sunlight, but anyways, it was cool, and he's fucking tweeting the storm on Twitter, and
I'm sending you an email.
Yeah, yes, all this stuff was cool, right? All this stuff was cool.
Yeah.
The lawyer shows up, and you get some backstory about what Zoe's program's all about, and you come to find out that this was the Jonathan what was his name?
Jonathan Harker.
Something like that. Yeah.
Harker? Yeah, Jonathan Harker. This is his fucking, his foundation that was started up by, Mina and, all this kind of stuff. And it was, okay, all right, I'm following. A nice way to kind of,
call back to the first episode.
Yeah, call back and all that. But when it got dumb for me was the introduction of Lucy
Westerner.
If she had just been a feed bag, that would have been fine.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is, so Dracula's been around for 500 years, and this is the first time he's encountered something like this?
And
that's
the thing
world
that
changing
really,
for him.
well, the thing that bothered me was they spent way too much time on this. Like, it got to the point where I forgot that I was watching a show about Count Dracula.
Yeah, it was a teen drama.
And I didn't like her fucking attitude. Yeah, she was attractive, but she's here taking pictures and, oh, I'm so hot, and everybody wants me, and everybody wants
smiles
to fuck
when you're pretty.
Everybody smiles when you're pretty, yeah.
It's like, bitch, you ain't that pretty.
Tell it like it is, Tim.
No, but I'm like, yes, the actress is very pretty, but the character was gross. Like, her whole attitude was gross.
But that's kind of, she's nihilist, right? She doesn't care, and that's supposedly why I keep wanting to say Lucifer, because that's who this fucking character is. This is why Dracula is so attracted to her, I guess.
Yeah, and they did have some cool interactions or whatever. What I think would have been cool is maybe have her look like one of her descendants Dracula had a thing for in the fucking 18th century or something like that. You know what I mean? And there was more to it than, oh, she just got this right kind of attitude. Like, she looked like someone he used to love, or, you know. Do you know what I mean? Like, something like that, like a callback to that. But this came so out of left field. There was a couple moments that I actually, enjoyed the story, because, you come to find out that Jack, who works for Zoe, Zoe was her.
She ran like a research center.
And he was her protege or whatever, right? Whatever. So, okay, cool. But he has a thing for Lucy, but Lucy doesn't really give him the time of day, even though she said she gave him like a couple sympathy fucks or something.
Yeah. 4.
So whatever.
4.
Yeah. So, anyways, and then Lucy's gay friend was trying to hit on Jack. Like, it was just a bunch of shit I didn't care about. I don't care.
It was like a CW TV show all of a sudden.
Turning into a rated S shit. I'm sorry. But Lucy, there was a couple scenes that I liked when they were at the fucking graveyard.
Yeah.
And the little fucking ghoul kid.
That was spooky as fuck.
Playing
and like how what'd she call it? Pookie lady or something?
Boofer lady.
Yeah.
Boofer lady. Yeah. I was trying to say beautiful, right? And that whole thing, and that was cool, but I felt like the story hit a fucking standstill, because it was like,
it just changed his character so much. It didn't make sense to me that this fucking everlasting being and his character has been changed so much in the last 24 hours.
Like,
but maybe I guess that's because he fed on fucking degenerates of the 21st century.
Yeah, because they do time jump. They do a time jump, like 3 months or something like that.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 months later. Yeah.
But maybe that's why his character changed so much. This is just clicking in my brain now.
But I did like the fact that he was using Tinder as basically a menu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
And see, the thing is the idea, the core idea of Count Dracula making it to the 21st century, right? Our time, right? Yep. Modern day, is intriguing as fuck, right? Because you can get that whole fish out of water thing, and then have this whole, he adapts to a certain point, but people are still people, and food is still food. So it was him, this whole character arc of him trying to adapt for the modern day, Count Dracula, right? Like that to me sounds awesome. He's obviously fucking stupid wealthy. He owns all this land. He's 500 years old, so he's charming as fuck. Yeah. He's Dracula. So, like, there's all these things that it could have been really awesome, but I feel the character of Lucy kind of ruined it. And I mean, her arc ends up getting kind of cool. Like, I liked what ended up happening with her. Mm-hmm. But I just, all that shit to get there, like all the stuff of
she
dancing at
railroaded
the club.
The series.
Yeah.
all of a sudden nothing mattered but her character, right?
Yeah.
And one thing this episode seriously lacked is it wasn't a story being told like all the other ones. That's one of the key factors in the other ones. This is all of a sudden just it's happening here and now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a point. Yes, there was no story being told, but what I feel would have did it more justice was forget Lucy.
Yeah.
He develops this same kind of crush on Zoe.
Zoe, yeah. It should have been the Van Helsing from the start.
Which would have made more sense because Sister Agatha, the character, is, from what we've seen, the only person to ever stand up to him and treat him not as an equal, but like, you know, you're not any, all your shit doesn't matter to me. Like, I know the ins and outs.
Well, couldn't you say Lucy had that? Like, the two characters are the only two characters that didn't fear Dracula. Neither one of them cared.
But I'm saying from a story standpoint, though, like if you want to switch it up and all this, it should have been Zoe, because
almost like she was the only thing that he couldn't have, or something like that, and it would have been.
Yeah, and for us watching it, Sister Agatha, Zoe, both played by Dolly Wells. There's more an emotional attachment to her because we've been with her the other two episodes, right? But you introduce this new person who I think is, you know, her personality is disgusting. And you're right, it's supposed to be that way. But I wanted to fast forward all the parts that she was in. Yeah. And it's not anything against this poor actress, Lydia West. Nothing against her. She's doing what, you know.
Her story arc is good in the end. It's just I didn't like that it took the whole episode to get there. It's kind of unfortunate.
I can appreciate what they did with her story arc, where her vainness, you know what I mean, her absolute, you know, self-important vain situation comes to a head at the end, because she becomes an undead, she becomes a bride of Dracula, and he warns her, do not be cremated because you will fucking regret it. And she's cremated, and she comes out the other end, you know, a fucking burnt, you know, fucking
which again,
hot
special
dog.
Effects fucking nailed it.
They did, but I actually didn't really enjoy that part of her of her arc, because I didn't enjoy her, just like what Tim is saying. So I kind of went, yeah, whatever. I could see it coming from a mile away. She's so self-absorbed, and everything's about her beauty, that the moment she's no longer beautiful, kill me. I don't want to live because it's not worth it, because I'm not pretty anymore.
And, I mean, let me set the record straight. I do think Lydia West, the actress, she is hot. She is pretty. But,
thirsty time with Tim.
No, but, like, her character just fucking ruined it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just ruined it. It just ruined it.
I personally believe that if she had a more of a story arc similar to Lucy from like the books or the Bram Stoker Dracula or otherwise, if she had just become a bride of Dracula and was a fucking ghoulish bride of Dracula roaming the fucking halls of his house, you know what I mean? And would have been, you know, the pale with, you know, and attacking people. Like, I think that it would have actually probably improved the character in the end and her story arc, in my opinion, because it would have been a traditional bride, which were creepy as fuck in the stories in the original movies to begin with.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that would have made it better, and then have something happen where then, you know, she falls victim to her vain or her vanity and she dies. But I would have preferred to have seen an actual full-out bride of Dracula be born the way that it was intended to be. Like she was kind of in the original stories, because she was, you know, they open up the casket and she's a bride and they just, you know, right, kill her in the casket and shit, but give her the opportunity. You know what I mean?
I just think that it would have made a lot more sense for this love story to have been with Zoe, especially with how it ended.
Yeah.
It would have been better. Because, I mean, you're right, Adam, what you said about, oh, I'm not pretty anymore, kill me. Like...
It was
really?
almost like an easy way out for the scriptwriters.
Like, like you were bitten by a fucking... You're a vampire now. A couple hundred years from now, you don't give a shit what you look like. Just feed on people. Like, who cares? And the thing that doesn't make sense to me is you're a vampire. You'll heal. Why wouldn't she heal? Darth Vader healed.
Theories don't make any sense.
Darth Vader healed.
The rules don't make any sense.
Well, he kind of made it seem like she wouldn't heal, like the way that he was talking, but yet every injury that he ever had healed. So,
he's not a normal vampire, though. He's king shit.
It's true, but still, I don't know. But then again, this brings up a good point again, because we talked about the fact that the rules exist, but they don't fucking exist in this movie, because we said earlier in the episode too, once again, a vampire can't kill themselves. Mm-hmm. What does he do at the end of this episode?
He fucking kills himself.
He fucking kills himself. He plot twist, M. Night Shyamalan plot twist. Turns out that Zoe
rules aren't real.
The rules aren't real, but Zoe has cancer. So earlier in the episode, he bites her and he's vomiting blood and shit, and he's sick, and that's how they capture him. It turns out that it's because, once again, the only rule that truly does exist, in my opinion, Dracula could never feed on the dead. The blood of the dead was poison to him. The blood of the dying and the blood of the dead is poison.
Well, it also shows when Lucy gets fucking a steak, she vaporizes, so that's another rule. Stick to the heart.
Yeah. But, like, it's poison to him. So if he can't kill himself, or vampires can't kill themselves, he knowingly feeds on her. So he's killing himself.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Doesn't count.
And one thing that Mick brought up when we were watching it, and I totally agreed because I was watching it too, it seemed very overly artistic with some of the shots and the fucking flames.
And the ending?
The ending with the sun and
their naked bodies dwindled up together while he's feeding on her and fucking the weird fucking shit.
See, but the thing is, this ending wouldn't have bugged me if it would have been Zoe the whole fucking time.
It would have made more sense. The ending would have made more sense. He would have given himself to his love, basically. He would have died with her.
And I mean, and she more or less became Agatha again in the end, because
she drank Dracula's blood, which had the lives of
well, what was the quote, the catchphrase? Blood is lives.
Blood is lives,
Yeah. So, I it's just I don't understand why they would have made.
My biggest gripe with this series is, again, trying to fucking understand the rules. So they make a point to try and understand, like, why Dracula is afraid of the cross. And he gives it a reason, and then Agatha comes up with her own reason. And to come to find out it's all just fucking malarkey. And, like, some of the rules are just made up, and Dracula just listens to them because those have been the rules.
I will say, though, the original idea behind why Dracula was afraid of the cross, the one that he gave, that
was good.
Tone,
I was content with that.
I fucking loved it. I thought it was actually one of the best pieces of writing in the whole series. And it was
like,
literally
sure,
that the cross, being a pinnacle of the church, was meant to strike fear in the hearts of people to behave
in the
fear of God.
He's consumed on so many peasants that had the fear of God.
The fear of God was in him too.
And,
and one of the big things that he said, one of his strengths was, I can't wait to feed on some atheists in the new world because they've got to be there. You know what I mean? So
he was really excited when he said it. You saw the gleam in his eye.
Yeah. I thought that was one of the best things, but then at the end they threw that out the fucking window.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
And like the sunlight thing, so the sun doesn't hurt him.
So that just totally ruined the fact that for 400 plus years he avoided the sun. And the whole scenario with him and Jonathan Harker on the rooftop was just null and fucking
ruins
bullshit.
That beautiful scene.
Yeah. Which, going back to that real quick, it was a good scene because Jonathan didn't give a shit. And he was like, I hope you fucking die. And Dracula's like...
Yeah. In his
True
last
enough.
breath, he's saying... Yeah, because Dracula gives him the out. He says, "Listen, if you promise to me right now that if I let you go and you never look at us again and never come back, you can leave." And he looks him right in the face. He's like, "If you let me go, I swear to God, I'll make my life mission to destroy you."
Fair enough. And it was kind of a beautiful moment. It was kind of funny. It was kind
Do you notice that, like, instead of talking about the shitty ending, we went back to episode 1?
The good ending.
did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel how she all of a sudden jumped up onto the table and tore down the curtains, and he's writhing on the floor in the sunlight. Okay, they're going to kill him that way. But then he stands up, and he dies because he chooses to die by feeding on her. And then we get this artistic fucking thing of them basically fucking on the sun.
Yeah.
And then it fades to black and the credits, and I'm sitting there going,
Fuck was that?
What the fuck? Why?
what the fuck was that? And, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, end scene. That's how it ends. They're all fucking dead in the end. There's a couple of unanswered questions, like, what's going to happen with Dracula's...
A couple?
Yeah, okay. More than a couple. There's quite a few, in fact. Many, many questions as to how things would progress after that. But in the end, I don't think it was a fitting ending by any means. It would have been a better story otherwise, moving
How
into
come
a different
Dracula
direction.
wasn't old as fuck when he came out of the water?
True, because he did age in the first episode. He had already been aged. So if he was
was
100 and
super
some
old.
odd years, he wasn't any bit older by any means either. And they had mentioned he's perfectly preserved.
Yeah.
Maybe because of how cold it was under the water. And maybe it was because it was water.
Because the rules don't exist.
Yeah, that's why.
Because the rules fuck the rules. They'll make up the rules as they go with each episode. So
That's the most important part of a creature feature. You have to have the rules for the beast. That's the most important
They
part.
named an episode after it.
Right?
Oh shit. Yep.
You've got the Wolfman. What's the rules? You shoot him with a silver bullet.
Wolfman's
You
got
Dracula.
nerds.
What's the rules? Right?
Yeah. All right, guys. I think it comes down to the fact that we need to actually review this and give our final rating on this. We're not going to rate the individual episodes because if we did, we'd see an obvious fucking decline by the time that we get to the third episode. It would be a little bit of a slope downhill. So think about it from the very first episode to the end of the last episode as if it was one whole thing that you watched, and that's what you're going to grade it on. So time for final opinion and your grade. Tim.
Based off the first 2 episodes, I would have gave this fucking rated R. I loved it. I was so on board. But after that 3rd episode, what do I rate it? What's our ratings again?
S for shit. PG for pretty good. Keep going up the line.
Wasn't it rated G for garbage?
G for good.
G for garbage. PG for
PG
pretty
for
good.
pretty good. R for recommended,
Perfect.
and X for
Excellent.
Adam's a fucking
Nutcase.
pandering mofo. I don't know.
Shut up.
I'm gonna rate it. I'm gonna rate it pretty good, based off the first 2 episodes, and if you stop right there.
Yep.
But including in all 3, I'm gonna say garbage. But the first 2 episodes, or especially the first episode, they're really good.
Yeah.
But it just nosedives. I thought that Claes Bang, I'm butchering his name, I thought he was a fantastic Dracula.
Yep.
I dug him. He had vibes of Christopher Lee. I fucking dug him. I was on board. This guy is the shit. And also Dolly Wells as Sister Agatha Zoe. I adored her. I thought she was spunky, and yeah, I really liked her character. But yeah, that's how I rate it.
Tim rates it G for garbage.
Garbage.
PG. It was pretty good. The first 2 episodes. First 2 episodes are pretty good. If you stop right there.
Okay. So overall, your final rating, PG.
PG.
Josh.
So I've got some notes of these films.
Josh's notes. Go ahead.
And I'll be honest, the first episode I enjoyed so much, I didn't have time to take notes.
Nice.
There's a couple things I jotted down. The other ones, don't worry, there's lots. First thing, the girl that is mentioned by the fiance when they're in the carriage ride, she's like, yeah, that cute waitress, I might have her too. That's a reference to Doctor Who.
Yeah, Rose and something or whatever.
Yeah.
Rose Barb or something like that.
The other reference is to Sherlock when Agatha is talking about her detective friend in London. It's definitely Sherlock. So we could have like a crossover. That'd be kind of cool. And when they're looking through the manor, there's a suit of armor. And that's Vlad the Impaler's, like, classic armor. The character that Dracula is based off of. When you look up Vlad the Impaler, like that classic painting of him with the helmet with the nose piece that goes down, that's that suit of armor. I thought that was a pretty cool reference.
Nice.
That's all I had for part one. When Dracula was first introduced, I really didn't like him. I was like, oh man, he's got this scraggly old hair. I thought it was like a young Dracula. But then as it kind of developed and we got to see the character more, it was really good. Part two. Look how this chimney sweep kid holds a pen. That would have been Pieter, I guess. He holds a pen really weird. We saw the captain for the first time, and I wrote down Captain Highliner. He looks like the guy in the fish stick box. And then I wrote, hey, it's Sammy from home. Love that little Syrian refugee.
Little.
Yeah. What did you think I'd be in the box? Yes, actually. Yes, I did, Dracula. That gag you pulled where you said, didn't you think this? Yes, I did. I wrote, Dracula vapes. That must have been when he blew the smoke.
Yeah.
Chucking clouds he was.
Yeah. Dracula has like the first ever pair of sunglasses. That was pretty cool. I wrote, your paprika joke was funny the first time. This time, less so.
Paprika joke, yeah.
I still laughed.
Me too.
Yeah.
Every time he said it, I still laughed.
Yeah, I giggled.
And then Dracula said, you assume number 9 was my cabin? Yeah. Yes, I did, Dracula. Yes, I did assume that. And then I wrote, what's in the blue vial? I don't remember what that was.
It's even better when the notes kind of dwindle and it's like, I don't even remember what I wrote that for.
Blue vial? I don't remember. Circle of Bible pages. That was cool.
Yeah.
Poor Pieter. He's definitely Dracula, I wrote. And then he stepped up the circle. I was like, huh. I just wrote, huh. Okay. And then someone else stepped up, said that the circle, and Dracula says, that was hilarious. That's Mandy's cocky. I fucking love this character. Wonder what's going through the buddy's head when he shot him for the 5th time and it didn't do shit. Just so he's gone full into the completely natural. He doesn't understand any of the supernatural. He says, yeah, this is just a murderer. He's a man. I'm going to shoot him. And it didn't do anything. And just that, oh shit moment. At one point, Agatha's in like the lower deck, and you just hear her say, "Is somebody there?" And it's like, bitch, this isn't a Scream movie. Like, you're fucking a Van Helsing. You're not the first victim in a Scream movie. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Cabin goes down with the ship. What a chump. And then I wrote, these two dinguses didn't take all the rich people's shit. Pieter and the chef are just like in the little robot with nothing. There was all these fucking rich people. Why didn't they have all their expensive luggage and stuff?
Ransack the
cabins. And then I just wrote helicopters. What the fuck? Straight up the village to me.
Nice.
Part 3. He gets to see the sun. Don't know what that was for.
Oh, because at the very beginning, he's sitting watching TV, watching the...
He's watching like an African...
like safari, National Geographic thing, yeah.
And then I just wrote the fridge, laughing emoji.
The fridge was actually kind of creepy.
Yeah. Why didn't he age that 123 years?
Mm-hmm.
That really threw me. He should have aged. I just wrote orally, comma, Dracula, you dog. I don't remember what he must have said. Something thoughtfully.
A joke.
And then someone mentions vampires in the films. And it's like, so is Dracula the film canon in this existence? So are there like movies about vampires and Dracula?
Maybe not about Dracula,
Maybe.
but about, because nobody seems phased by the fact that he calls himself Count Dracula. So it's probably that El Nosferatu where vampires exist as canon in movies, but not Dracula specifically.
And then I wrote, "Get in the box!" Exclamation point. How did Tim not like this episode? It's so good. And then I wrote the background.
You
wallpaper
put me in your
The
notes?
Shining. I did. I got to like this point. I was like, why didn't Tim like this? This is a great episode.
Hold on.
Yeah. The wallpaper is from The Shining.
Oh yeah,
Which I thought was cool, but it was a different color.
Yeah.
It was like
but it
blues
was
and
like
greens.
the same kind of design.
Yeah.
Someone said, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," and I just thought, yeah, you will, because you're gonna die, stupid. It showed like the little heart effects coming out of the phone. Like, why were they showing like emojis?
Oh yeah, that got really fucking weird.
Dumb, stupid. Love the Hannibal Lecter style cage they had Dracula in, and then I just wrote, "Dracula has a lawyer. This is fucking gold. How did you not like this episode, Tim?" They let him out, and I wrote, "Fucking bureaucrats."
It's so true.
Dracula has a very Lucifer vibe. I wrote, "Dracula has Tinder. Dracula uses emojis. Dracula texts, 'I'm always hungry.' Same, bro, same." The love interest Lucy Nihilist is pretty weak. Love the crossword gag. So when the lawyer's doing crosswords, and he's like,
Dracula
"Animal
is
with a
my
long
lord."
neck." Dracula is the... Yeah. I wrote, "Who hates grapes?" I don't remember. Someone must have said they hated grapes. And I said, well, who hates grapes? Everyone loves grapes. Peekaboo Zombie was legit terrifying. That was fucking creepy. Wow, checking your Rolex at a funeral. Pretty scummy move.
Yeah, that whole fucking fiance bullshit.
Fiance, yeah.
That was
Pretty
totally
scummy.
forgettable.
He's got his bag packed and he's checking his Rolex.
He's on his way back to Texas.
Cremation scene was dark as fuck. And then they said, "My DNA syncs with yours." If that's not the most fucking parallel to Metachlorians, I don't know what is. Like, that took all the fun out of this fucking series when they said that. The reflection shows Lucy as her ideal, but not Dracula as old, which doesn't make sense.
Actually,
No, it did show it as it did show him as old.
It did show it as old.
But Dracula, yeah, it showed Dracula as old. So why didn't it show Dracula as the ideal?
Maybe because I don't know.
And then I wrote, "Selfies reveal the truth, but the camcorder didn't." So when she takes a selfie, that reveals like the true being. But when Lucifer had the camcorder and we saw from his side, it was just the way he was.
But it comes down to, I think that had to do with stills, because when the camera was on and it was almost like in that video mode, she was ideal. It's when the flash went off and the camera took the picture that she was revealed. So I don't know if it's just like taking the idea of, a camera and the whole old idea of camera stealing
souls. The rules are very loosey-goosey in this film.
Yeah.
Real subtle arm behind the back, bud. I think that was when he had
the stake behind his back, yeah.
Yeah. Burned Lucy effects were really nasty. Great job to whoever did that. You will live forever, you lose. And I was like, I don't think you understand how that word is used. Living forever is the opposite of losing, actually. That means Dracula wins. I wrote, great shot of the window, shadow forming a cross. So that, again,
that was
the cross kind of go up when he's walking up. And then I just wrote, so Dracula just got more OP because we found out he can withstand the sun. And then the ending happened. I wrote, okay, Tim, I'll give you that. That ending was complete and total dog shit. You were right.
Nice.
Thank you. Can you save that note for me? I want to hang that on my fridge. Please.
Frame, yeah.
So in totality, we have an amazing episode, which I would give the highest rating. A pretty good episode. I like an 8 out of 10. I'd even recommend it. Episode 2. It's very akin to a Doctor Who episode or an episode of Sherlock. And then we have this episode, which is the bastard child of the Highlander and Lucifer. Which I cannot recommend that anyone watches that. So I guess we're left with Somewheres in the Middle, which is a pretty good.
Fair enough.
Just stop halfway through the third episode. Just turn it off.
Yeah.
You'll be happier.
So I share a lot of the same sentiments. First episode was really good. I would say recommended would be where I put that one, and it was very strong. And the effects were good, the gore was good, the characters were good. Second episode comes along, and I start to see the diminishing in quality. Just in terms of how it plays out. I wasn't totally enthralled by it, but it was still really good. Third episode, what the fuck? Plain and simple. Yeah, Lucy was trash. The idea, the story arc. The second biggest failure of the third episode was the Jonathan Harker Foundation. In my opinion, when I was watching it, I was picturing all these things that the Jonathan Harker Foundation could have been. And the first thing that came to mind was, what if it was a way where they were like funding like research into cryptids and other demons and characters, and they had like a whole fucking gaggle of people like Van Helsing that were like fucking hunting these beasts down and shit, and Dracula is like a mythical creature that's finally come to life for them.
Yeah.
Didn't it imply that they were trying to weaponize him?
It implied that they were trying to weaponize him.
Yeah.
But once again, like, not like, that these people were like, vampire hunters and ghoul hunters and shit like this exists in real life. I thought that would have been badass, because going back to what we had talked about, Dracula being able to tell stories of things that he had seen, what about the history of the Harker Foundation having been something birthed out of a necessity for the fact that ghouls and demons and goblins and witches exist?
Like Wolfram and Hart in the Buffy universe, or the secret organization in Cabin in the Woods.
Exactly. So I think that there was a very lost opportunity there where the Harker Foundation could have been fucking badass. Like, it could have been really something cool. And, thinking about it, because Mina survived and she would have set this up in Harker's name, knowing that he had died from this situation, let's try to prevent this from happening again. Like, that would have been really fucking cool. So there was a lot of missed opportunities. The only really awesome things that I found out of the third episode were, I did like the scenario in the house with the fridge, and he's just kind of nonchalantly kind of like living there, so to speak, at that time. You know what I mean? Going to the introduction to the Harker Foundation and him in the whole Hannibal cage and shit like that. That was all pretty cool. The moment that he gets out and the 3 months kick past and Lucy becomes part of the fucking story, it became like an episode of a CW fucking teen drama at that point, and I was totally fucking lost on it. I hated every second of it. You're right, the zombie fucking ghoul kid, peekaboo, boofer lady, whatever, was fucking creepy as shit, especially because Dracula fucking dispenses it. He's like, excuse me, I have to kill a kid now. And he fucking stabs the kid to death, and it's like, that was fucking dark.
Even when he gives a description of how, like, sometimes, these babies, they just crawl up through the ground because a certain percentage of people become undead. Yeah.
And then she like starts to communicate, and he's like, no, it'll follow you home. Just don't do it. And it's like, ooh, that's kind of a creepy mythos. You know what I mean? These creatures fucking following you home because you play with it. Kind of cool. But yeah, like I said before as well, I did not like the ending at like all. It totally fucking ruined everything for me. So like I said, if I was reviewing each episode, you'd see a very fucking steady, decrease in quality and score. I'm going to say if I had to rate the whole thing, it would be sitting at a PG. If I had to rate it based on the merits of how it ended, it'd be garbage. It'd be fucking garbage. Yep. But yep. It goes up a little bit because I got some love for the first episode and some liking for the second episode. So PG is where I'm going to sit to. That's about pretty good.
I would love to talk to someone that actually enjoyed that finale so they can explain it to me. Because it's so over my head. It was just so dumb. I don't get it.
Too fucking artsy. Too fucking meta. Let's change shit around unnecessarily.
Why is Dracula killing himself? He's fucking Dracula.
Exactly.
Dumb.
Well, gentlemen, I think we beat this horse to death and beyond death, and it's a dead horse that we're still beating. So let's wrap this up.
Don't know.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us. This was a good long episode, and lots of breaks in there. So we'll be providing live episodes again soon, and doing more of these releases again here very soon as well. So please check us out on Facebook, check us out on YouTube, check us out everywhere that we possibly are available, with all of the actual Spotify type places and iTunes and everything else, everywhere where we're actually pushing the podcast out. And subscribe, like, share, tell your friends. Come on in, join the conversation. Leave comments in the fields below. Hit us up on Facebook or anything else. Open your hearts and your wallets. Patreon is up and running, so you can join the Patreon and help us produce more content, and we much appreciate that too. So until next time, Tim,
Stay spooky, everybody.
Josh.
This show needs more paprika.
Fuck. Have a good night, everybody. See you next time.
Good night.